greeting travelers of the what bilingual sphere, however you wanna call it. Welcome to another episode of me, Casual Conversations with me, with Carlz. I am your host of the only show, as far as I know it, that takes whatever these random bald guys said about a movie or media and then tries to make a reinterpretation in English. Perhaps ideas change from one week to another. So, in this week's episode, there's one movie, not so much of an idea, but a movie in particular that has been growing up on my brain and mind and thoughts. And this movie is the Blair Witch Project. If you weren't alive at the end of the 90s, the Blair Witch Project was this found footage film of three youngsters that get lost in some random forest in the US where strange things would happen. Rumors of a witch or like a serial killer were like prominent in that area. And the big thing about this movie is that it was a huge deal. It was a huge deal for several reasons. And I think they need to be explained in order for people who weren't alive there or haven't or didn't see the movie in that occasion can attest to, right? So the movie is found footage. It's allegedly supposed to be the footage they found for these three young filmmakers that got lost in the woods, right? And they disappeared, right? But the movie itself was led by a heavy publicity campaign, right? Where they try to portray the movie as real. So the movie is really lacking in the special effects or like anything fancier about filmmaking. It's just these random VHS tapes that they found and they show the characters struggle while they get lost and then they get hunted and spoiler, eventually they all seem to die, right? So the thing with this movie to me was that as years went by, right, you keep coming back to it, whether it is to make fun of it or whether it is to remind you if it was good or not. So in my Spanish episode, the reflection that I tried to make was this sort of balance between it being a good movie and it being a bad movie. What does this exactly mean? So, for example, as far as the genre of horror goes, this movie set up quite a trend that after that I'm not completely aware whether there were similar movies before that, but it sent the trend of the found footage, which you can see later in like the VHS movies, Cloverfield. There's a bunch of movies about found footage, right? So it sends this kind of like a trend in horror where like this person perspective seems to, in a generic way, like put the audience in like the driver's seat. You can say that in a way, right? So the point with it is that back in the day, it worked because it really didn't have anything. There was nothing like it. So it had like this really fresh and this really kind of like a funny, exciting element. Whenever I think about it, I remember when I saw it for the first time being really young, and the movie, perhaps by the time it came out and how new it was, it challenges your sort of like understanding of what's real and what's not. What do I mean by this? In horror, the main or the key ingredient is always this sort of like balance between what I'm watching, how I feel about it, how deep it is connected to me as a person, as a real person. So as you move forward in the history of horror, you like eventually get like crash with all the realistic type of horror. Like in this sense, you can always think about the movie the cannibal holocaust, right? And how really bad, or it really felt really bad. It was kind of like, to me at least. I've never seen it. I read the controversy about it, and I decided I didn't want to watch it, because basically they use real animals and real animal cruelty to sort of improve the reality of the horror in the movie. But what is this? What does this have to do with Blair Witch Project? In particular, it's because this found footage sort of genre and sort of a form of recording and like presenting horror sort of kind of blurred the line between reality and fiction. And this is part of the what makes the movie really good, right? Yeah, like you never want to be in that situation, but you want to feel as close as you can to that situation. And I guess that is the real strength of found footage in general, right? It's sort of putting you in that moment, and it sort of taps into your more like primal sort of fears. Like, to me personally, for example, I always remember when I was a kid and I saw the Alien Autopsy, which was this really uh, infamous by now, right? Like footage of them like dissecting this alien in Area 51 and everything. Of course, it was all made up, but it felt exactly the same as Blair Witch Project. A part of me, like the logical part of me, knew that this was fake, that it was made up, right? But at the same time, my not delusional, but just a regular part of me was like always relying on this question: what if it was true? And how terrifying would that be? So you keep thinking about these aspects of the narrative and creativity of Blair Witch Project, and you go like, "Wow, this is a really good movie. This is really original. This is like this is great," right? You get sort of like absorbed by the movie. You feel like you are there with them. It taps into all of these, as I said, primal basic fears. Like if you've ever been alone at night in a forest, like really far away from civilization, you can feel the fear that they were feeling in the movie. It really comes through the screen. And here's the thing, though, like whenever I think about it nowadays, after, I don't know, being like a punchline to so many jokes, I bet if you grew up in the 2000s, like late 90s, 2000s, you've seen at least one parody of the scene of the girl like recording her last goodbye to her loved ones or whatever, right? What happened with thinking about reality and thinking about it being a movie is like, if you wonder if it's even a good movie beyond this sort of really creative way of tapping into your natural human like fears, like let's think about it. And I think, for example, okay, these guys are supposed to be filmmakers, so how come their product is so shitty? These guys are supposed to like have something planned. How come it's really so messy? Like, there's so many elements of the movie itself which are so basic, and they are like so bare bones. And I watched this movie before doing my Spanish episode last time, right? Like sort of to refresh it. And nowadays, it's so strange to watch. When I saw it first, I was so into it from the first minute, from like, oh, this is real. Even if I said a part of my brain already decided that it wasn't real, right? Because it's absurd. It can't be real, right? I bought into the idea of it being real, and the movie consumed me. But when I watch it now, it's like come on, it's like a lot of things came up. Like do people would really talk like that? Like, these guys are supposed to be panicking, right? Like fearing for their lives, but somehow it still feels scripted. Like the way they choose to talk to move the story forward, right? The way the thing happen in a progressive manner. It's like, oh no, it's gonna visit you 3 times. There are so many elements in the movie which are brilliant, are dumb at the same time. For example, the scares, like one of those big scare scenes when they are inside the tent and somebody moves the tent, like blah, 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 like somebody's like pushing the tent from the outside, and it's like, okay, if I bought into the idea of being real, it's super scary, but if I didn't, it's super stupid. You see? So in the end, you sort of like keep balancing the not only the idea of the movie but the enjoyment of the movie itself. Like, you keep going all like between liking it and disliking it, and that's why I decided to watch the, well, now unofficial sequel, right? Like the Book of Shadows, Blair Witch Book of Shadows. What watching Book of Shadows did was to clarify some of these elements that during my second watching of the movie seemed like stupid or like really out of place or something that would drive you away from the idea of watching something real. So Book of Shadows immediately like begins the movie by trying to sell you the same idea that it's real. So Book of Shadows says like, oh, what happened during part 1 was real, and what we're going to show you now, it's a reenactment of a real thing that happened. Like, what you're watching is real. Like, they try really hard to like reinforce this idea, which really didn't need to be done after 1. But years have passed, right? Like, everybody knows now that it's like a full movie. Like, it doesn't have the publicity campaign of 1. Like, I think they released like the missing signs where I'm in right now, and they released like news campaigns. Like, they did a whole publicity campaign trying to convince people that this was real. But the magic was already gone, right? By the time Book of Shadows came out, the movie was already gone, like the magic. And you can see how the narrative sort of moves in a natural way out of this survival, like limited scare that was 1. It moves towards this world building, sort of psychological slasher, if you want to call it. Well, it's sort of it's a slasher since they started dying one by one, right? And it's sort of like a revelation on itself, right? Like, you bought into part 1 because part of you, whether you like it or not, bought into the idea that it was real. But on part 2, like, it immediately takes you out of it. And when you accept the fact that this is just a movie, it's not only a movie, it's a really crappy movie. The effects are bad, the ideas are bad, the script is like a joke. Like, characters are stereotypical for these sort of movies. So even if they rely on many elements of 1 to try to sell you the idea that it's real, like going into similar places and doing different things, the mere fact that it's shot as a movie, right, from like a third person perspective, like a cameraman and a director are behind the camera, the magic is already gone. And it's curious because in part 1, I think you can count this as a brilliant thing by part 1, because there are many things, as I said, that once you think about it, they're like super set up and scripted. I don't know, for example, like the fact that the dude, the third dude, just misplaces the map just because. right? Or like how come when the lady records her goodbye message, how come it's so poorly shot? Like why did she shot it like that? How come they have like seemingly infinite battery life for 1999? It's like you know, how come they didn't follow the water? Like I watch Man versus Wild once, and he said something that makes a lot of damn sense. If you are near a river, follow it. Follow it. If they were lost for 3 days, why didn't they follow the river? You are not only bound to find someone, but you would be able to distinguish the features, the geographical features that would give you some indication that you are moving somewhere. So as you start seeing how one it's even more set up, you can't help but give props to it for the creativity it had by creating this. You know, and it's true. There are like moments which are like sort of gray moments in a sense that they break the like the illusion. It sounds ironic, but they break the illusion of reality of the movie itself, but at the same time they enhance the movie aspect of it. One of it is the actually really good performance, especially by the main actress, right? It's like when you are watching the movie, assuming it's reality, or like accepting the possibility of it being reality, like her performance sort of like camouflages with the rest of the movie. It just does. Like you don't really notice it. But if you are watching it, thinking about it as performances, they're pretty good. Particularly hers. They're pretty convincing. Especially if you compare them to like the awkward, like the supposed like beginning of the movie. It's supposed to be the beginning of the documentary, and those people are like clearly just like extras, right? And you can sort of tell. But anyways, the thing is like when I think about it nowadays, and as I did during my Spanish episode, I try to like juxtapose it being a good movie and it being a bad movie, right? What it really meant for it to appear during that period of time, what it really meant for them to have this publicity campaign, which by the way could never happen today. Like it could never happen today with social media and like communications like being what they are today. Like you could never ever have something like this today. It would already like be leaked and like there would be no mystery. Everybody would know what the hell is going on. Like you could never have that, which sort of leads you to this idea that like it's not so important whether the movie is good or bad, but it really was sort of like a reflection of a moment in time. Like you know how they say when like some things happen, like in the Big Lebowski, right? Like there's a man for a time and a place. As horror movie goes, Blair Witch Project was the movie that has its time and its place. Like, however you grade all of these elements that I've been mentioning, like the alleged reality, you know, like the cinematic elements that they are inside of it, the legacy of part two, how it sort of breaks the magic of number one, right? Like the further you go, the more the magic is broken. Even more so if you see like you can call it a remake or something, which is also really interesting. I think that was once 2016, I think, or something like that, where they did just the Blair Witch again, right? They sort of showed how the magic of that movie worked in between, out of the cinema itself, like the efforts outside of the cinema are and inside. Because if I remember correctly, they try also to make not necessarily a publicity campaign on it, but they did try to hide the fact of the movie being anything at all, right? I think they used like fake names and everything to try to hide the movie and whatever, right? And then when they show it, like people already knew that it was Blair Witch Project. Like again, and you can think about the elements that change, how it's even harder to make this exclusion of a media project or like audiovisual project, like how hard it is to take it from the circuit of information and like I don't know, Comic-Con and everything. But not only that, the 2016 version also showed the elements needed now for a new version for the movie to make more sense, right? There are several like scenes about trying to like portray the monster or like the spirit, like playing a lot more with camera effects, and like, so in a sense now you need to add more things to create this idea of a movie. But are these elements like sufficient enough to recreate the magic of the first one? And of course the answer is no. Like, there's no way for you again to in any way create this illusion once more of the idea that what you're watching is real. And that is sort of like the things that lead you to like a sort of a revelation, right? Whether the movie is good or bad, it's sort of like a moot point, right? Like it doesn't really matter, because it worked at one point in time. Like it worked perfectly, and it became on itself like such an important movie for the history of horror. And that is one of the things that I think people, like, maybe they are not so into horror, but like so many people tend to forget about it. Like this movie becomes some sort of like a joke. It becomes some sort of like a, I don't know, like punchline to so many things. I remember, like, was it like in like the MTV Movie Awards or something, when they parodied it, like the lady showing her nostrils and like dripping like boogers, like, oh no, I'm sorry. And I think that shows the really delicate balance of it. Like, as I've said, if you accept the possibility of it being real, it's like a really powerful and effective movie. And even in that case, like I still, like, whenever I've had, even during an adult, having the chance to camp outside in like in the forest, like, I'm not gonna say that I think that like the Blair Witch is gonna get me, but I've always had that little like germ of an idea of like I don't know, maybe not so much about like Blair Witch, but like when I was a kid, when I was way younger, before Blair Witch, I watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? And to me, it's more of that idea. It's another version, like a little bit expanded version. Expanded could be, I mean, it could just, or it could be just different, but it's the same idea of being like completely vulnerable in the outdoors. So it doesn't have to be a monster, or it doesn't have to be a guy with a chainsaw. But if you think about it that way, like that idea of being vulnerable in the wilds. Everything about Blair Witch Part 1 is just this one big setup to put that idea into a bubble, like an hour and a half bubble, and show it to you. And that to me is magic. Like, you don't need to go to the forest and be camping there and feel this. If you open your mind to the possibility, you can feel it here in this, like, cinematographically mediocre product that I'm offering you. But whether it was for like a stroke of genius or like for because it after I researched a little bit what the writers and the people like surrounding this movie made later, like they never did anything as relevant or as successful as this. They never did. I think one of the writers have tried to do like several found footage in other areas like aliens or whatever, like but I haven't seen any of it. I've read that everything is just like whatever, right? No, it's not really a big deal. Nothing was as big as this, because as I said, the magic died after part 1. Like, even if you compare the ending of the original with the 2016 version, where like of course this is a spoiler, where she finds the other guy standing in the corner and then the camera flops, right? Like he says like which one? I think it was Michael. I saw it in my poster. Is that like, Michael? Boop, and the camera falls. It records for a little bit. Surprisingly, still has battery, and then it goes away. But in the 2016 version, they try to play a little bit more with like noises and like some effects to make you feel like there's like a haunting energy behind it. And it's like it's not really necessary in the first one. But everything that happened after the first one was necessary. It is necessary. So, the more I thought about it these past days between my Spanish version and today, is that I have to acknowledge this movie. As a horror fan, I think you have to. It was, as I said, it was a just a flash, like a I want to say a shooting star, but that is way too much for this movie. Like, it's not that good, because it isn't. It's not that good, but it's that important. So it was this flash, brief moment of time where like a bunch of elements came together and like make a phenomenon. Like, beyond it being a movie, it was a phenomenon. If you watch it today, it's even, as I said, it's even stupid. Like one of the things that sort of like stood out for me during my latest watching was the whole thing with the like, what are they, like dolls, like made out of sticks of wood. Like, that shit is really stupid. it just is. But imagine like these 3-4 guys like making stick dolls like in the middle of nowhere, like, and hanging them, and then pretending it's like something scary. It's basically what would happen if you ever tried it as a kid or as a teen, to make like your own movie, and like, I don't know, like sort of crafting really like imaginative things with so little things to do, right? Like, no special effects, no anything. But anyways, coming back to the idea, like, now I think what I have to conclude is that it's not really relevant whether the movie was good or bad. It certainly was unique, and it certainly had like a magic of the moment. Nowadays, Yeah, of course nowadays it sucks. But whether you bought it back in the late 90s, or like you were a horror fan back in the late 90s, you probably haven't seen anything like it. And the found footage genre, it's just such a weird thing. And that's the last thing that it made me think about after I saw it again after so many years. How the whole found footage genre has its own strength now, right? The movie that made me think a lot about it was M. Night Shyamalan's one. Like, I don't remember the name, right? But it's probably, let me look it up right now. M. Night, because it's a really good movie. Probably the last good movie from M. Night Shyamalan for me. Um, what is it called? What is it? He hasn't made that many movies. And I think I thought I said to myself that I should watch the ones that I haven't seen, because it's supposed to be some good things in between. That's it. The movie is called Visit, 2015 by M. Night Shyamalan. But here he did a different thing with found footage. Instead of trying to, like, or depending on you believing what they were showing was real, he used found footage to sort of manipulate the narrative and the feeling of the movie itself. So, as a Shyamalan movie, if you say too much, you're gonna spoil it, right? So I'm not gonna spoil it. But basically, these couple of kids, they go stay with their grandparents, and one of the kids is like a film aficionado, right? Like, she likes to record movies, and she starts to record everything that is happening. So the brilliance of the movie is that by the movie being shot and being shown by the perspective of this girl, right? Shyamalan successfully uses the found footage format and genre to literally take your ideas, your thoughts, and your sight from what he wants you to see. Like, it's the final manipulation, because when it's not found footage, right? When you are like in full consciousness of a director being here and like everything being so manipulated, of course you immediately start, like, instead of thinking about the character or like the character, you start thinking about it as a spectator, right? And in case of like people like M. Night Shyamalan, you start like thinking about a critic immediately. Like, of course you can't avoid it, but that is the evolution of the use of found footage. And in some ways it still retains the magic or mystique that this movie, the Blair Witch Project, achieved with it. It's not about showing you first person what happened. It's not about me depending on you believing that what I'm showing you is real or fake. It's about manipulating the narrative in a way that goes beyond directing, and that it goes beyond cinema itself. Like, you often don't think about it, but it's there whenever you watch a movie. Like, you, of course, you naturally forget that this is the vision of someone, than a director literally directs what the camera can see, what the camera is showing, what the camera in ultimately, right, gives you as a story, as a narrative, as an idea. Everything is manipulated. And even if found footage, it's also manipulated, it's also staged and scripted and written. Like, the illusion is there. In a way, when I said that for you to enjoy Blair Witch Project, you had to accept the possibility of it being real, it's sort of like a contract you have to do with every found footage format ever. You have to accept that the person recording inside of the movie is not a director. You have to accept the fact that they are showing whatever they can show, whatever they are allowed to show, like whatever they manage to show. And that vulnerability, it comes through in future attempts of found footage films. And like, I'm not gonna be so like, I don't know, and I don't think innocent is the way, but I'm not gonna say it all comes from Blair Witch Project. But if you're a horror fan, like grew up after the like 1999 and during the 2000s, I think you probably got affected by this movie in more than one way. Because as I said, whether it was good or bad, it managed to capture this magic. It managed to capture your imagination beyond CGI, special effects, or like crazy ass performances. Like, it had a concept, an idea, and it managed to pull it through and like making it happen. So I guess like the main thing that I'm trying to say is that thinking about this movie today and watching it again today and being a fan of horror today and like being a fan of movies today, you sort of have to abandon the standards of, like, I don't know, filmmaking and like, I don't know, cinematography and like fuck, like none of it matter. I mean, it does, but like none of it like matter in a sense that none of it can take away the main big credit and like the main big thing that the movie achieved, which was basically deliver itself as a full experience. Of course, this is everything is debatable as usual, right? But to me, I couldn't but reach that conclusion. Even as that was a hard one. Even as I was watching it and realizing and thinking about all of these elements that they were just felt weird and like straight up bad. Even when my current me was challenging what I was watching, especially after watching Book of Shadows, the younger me was still there. And even if I was not scared now, I could remember the fear of my younger me, the one that accepted this like fantastic reality of, I don't know, horror and whatever, right? So, and at its bare minimum, this is a great reminder for us horror fans why we like this genre. Like we believe it. We dive into these images, into these ideas of the paranormal, the unknown, like and it has nothing to do with reality, which is that's why I mentioned the Cannibal Holocaust at the beginning and debating between reality and fantasy, right? Or why the movie was good versus why the movie was bad. Because every effort in horror has to deal with this. It has to deal with this balance between, like, okay, I'm not gonna just straight up show you gore or violence, like that's for perverts and and psychopaths, right? I'm gonna show you an idea that taps into like primal emotions. How do I achieve that? How do I use the tools that I have to create this? These tools are not limited to what I can show you with the camera or what can I achieve with special effects. It also has to do with making a publicity campaign and making many people believe that what I'm showing you is real. It could be that. It's a bunch of things. It's so many elements. And like, if you've ever tried to come up with an idea for a horror movie, you often see yourself trapped in this game of how do I scare people, but not with just some gratuitous gore or violence, but with context and like a nuance calling to the audience's fears, right? But their fears not just like I'm gonna get murdered. No, like this is more primal. It's not about going outside and like getting shot. Like it's not the same. It's not the same fear like, oh, I live in a bad neighborhood and if I go outside I might get shot or like stabbed or mugged. That is not the same fear of being missing in the forest and being haunted by some sort of evil spirit that you don't know if it's real or not. It's not the same fear. So I can't just show you violence. I mean, you can, but it's not so enjoyable. It's not that we enjoy playing up violence. We enjoy this sort of human creativity way of creating and crafting and like sort of extracting these weird emotions from our minds. And if that's the purpose of horror, I think Blair Witch does it great. I was about to say masterfully, but like no. That would be too much. But anyways, my big conclusion is that Blair Witch Project was the movie for a time and a place, and its legacy cannot be denied because, like at its core, it was this big, like horror experiment that whether we like it or not, in the big, like the big history of horror, the big spectrum of horror cinema, it achieved it. It achieved it. And whether we laugh right now, whether we don't remember any of the people involved in it, I think any horror fan, when you see horror footage, you think about this movie. So, gotta give it props, which I did during my current reflection. Is it a great movie? I don't know. Is it a scary movie? Certainly. Is it an important movie? Absolutely. For horror fans? Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I think there's a game coming out. I think there's a game or maybe another sequel. I don't know. The really limiting thing about it being such a product of its time and this like individual particular like sort of thing that happened at one point of time and place is that anything that you make after it would pale in comparison, and everything that has happened after it has sadly like been pale in comparison. Well, that's my time. Horror fans, hope I can hear from anyone. I mean, not even my Spanish speaking horror fans had too much to say about this movie. But man, if it's not for giving you a good scare, it certainly gives you a good food for thought. Certainly it does. Yeah. And I guess that's another way of enjoying it. But anyways, if you ever get lost in the forest and you are near a body of water, my advice, as someone that has never survived out in the wilds, is follow the body of water, because water equals life. So if you follow it, not only it will keep you alive, but you are bound to find another life form that will probably help you not to get murdered by the Blair Witch. So, follow this advice and you'll be A-okay in the wild. Thank you for listening and see you next time.